Hey folks, Poverty Point Customs here. Well, this is my 2022 CfMoto Cforce 1000 Overland. So what we're going to install today is wheel spacers on all four corners. These are 1 1/4 inch wheel spacers through Perfex Industries, as well as a 2-inch lift kit for the CfMoto Cforce 1000 through Perfex Industries again. And I'll leave a list of all the different compatible models for this lift kit, as well as they offer lift kits for several other brands and models. Biggest complaint about this is ground clearance, so we're going to help that out today. First things first, let's see what the factory ground clearance is. So in the rear, it's roughly 9 3/4 inches. So in the front, it's roughly 10 inches. What we're going to do first is jack up the ATV and take off all four tires. So I'm going to be using a ATV jack. So the ATV is off the ground, so we're going to take off all the tires. It's a 17mm socket. All right, so we got all four tires off. Now, if you don't have a lift like this, you can use just a regular floor jack. All right, so we're going to start with the front left side. All right, let's see what's inside. I do like the fact how it's nice and organized. Look at this, so it's not going to get any marks on it. So you can't get any simpler than this. You have your front hardware and your rear hardware. This is your front lift brackets, and these are your rear lift brackets. So we're going to need these first, as well as the front hardware. Just want to note, I've had other lift kits from other manufacturers, and there's not one mark on these, the way that they package these. Also too, it comes with a full set of instructions to do the front and rear, as well as a couple nice decals. We'll be putting those on the bike after. First things first, you want to make sure it's nice and clean. Could be a little bit cleaner than this. So the first step, you're going to want to remove your retainer bolt. This holds the bottom of your shock on the front end. It's going to be a 15mm, so you're going to take this bolt out. And the bottom of the shock is loose. All right, so you're going to open up your front hardware bag. You're going to need 2 of your brackets. So what you're going to do is take your first bracket. The curve is to the front, like that. Then you're going to have your spacer that's going to go in between these. And then your other bracket is going to go like that with the curve to the back. Again, your spacer in the front. And then you're going to put a bolt going through the bottom hole, through and out the back with a nut on there. Before I put the nut on, I'm going to put a little bit of thread locker. I always use the red Loctite thread locker. It recommends blue. Blue is a little easier to take off. I would say that's more than enough. All right, so you're going to put on your nut and just leave it loose till we get the shock mounted. Now, to get the shock mounted, you may find you may have to put a little bit of down pressure on the A-arm to get the bolt through. So to mount the shock, you're going to put your bolt through, then a washer, then put your bolt through the bottom mounting hole of your shock, and then you're going to have another washer. They kind of act as like a spacer. And then you're going to put a nut on this end, again with more thread locker. There we go, just enough. All right, so we're going to tighten down both of these nuts. And you can see where your lift is coming from. You're lowering your A-arm, which is raising your shock mount, the lower shock mount. And that's where you're getting your 2-inch lift. And yes, I did remove a lot of that red Loctite. We didn't need notions of it. So I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. All right, so we got the other side done. I will say on this side, I did have to push down quite a bit on the A-arm to give it enough room to put this top bolt in. Other than that, very simple install. All right, now we're on to the rear install. So what you're going to do is remove the top bolt that holds your shock. Again, 15 millimeter. All right, so that's step one, removing the top mounting bolt that holds the shock on. So you're going to have your rear hardware bag. So you're going to take your new shock mount, you're going to slide it over. Just like that, and this is where your shock's going to connect to. So up underneath here, you can see a thread in your new shock mount. What you're going to do is take this bolt and washer, and you're going to screw it up through that hole. And it's going to look just like that. I ended up using my extension on my drill to put it on just because I have bigger hands. So we're going to do the same as the front. We're going to have a bolt going through the top hole with a spacer and then a nut on the back side. Again, we're going to use a little bit of Loctite also. And that's how that's going to look. So for the new shock mount location, what you're going to do is put a bolt through here. You're going to have a spacer right here, and then the bolt's going to come out the other side with a nut. Just a little tip, getting this started is a little hard. So what you want to do is push down on the rear suspension, which will actually push the shock down, as you can see there, to get the bolt through. Just want to mention I did put the other spacer in here, so there's a spacer there as well as there. So now we're going to tighten this down. And that's how it looks. Very, very simple install. Again, the hardest part is just pushing down here to line up your bolt to get it through the holes. And it's quick coffee break time, and then I'm going to do the last side. All right, so I have all 4 corners done. Super, super easy install. And it's nice that all the nuts and bolts, all the hardware that you need are included in the kit. So I have all my factory nuts and bolts that I don't need anymore. I'm just going to put them actually in the Perfex Industries bag and throw it in the box and throw her on the shelf. So the next thing we're going to do is install our wheel spacers, again through Perfex Industries. These are 1 1/4. Look at how nice these are. So what you want to do first, once your wheels and tires are off, is you want to make sure your hub area is nice and clean. This is really clean, a little bit of surface rust. So what I'm going to actually do is apply a little bit of white lithium grease on this area. That way, if I have to take the spacers off, they'll come off much easier. I actually do this on my vehicles too. So we're going to take these supplied nuts off. And you're going to put your wheel spacer on. These are 4x110. You're going to put your supplied nuts on. So once your nuts are on, we're going to tighten these down, and you want to torque them. And you're going to go in a star pattern. So I'm going to go here, 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 and then switch it up till it's nice and snug and torqued. All right, so I have them all installed, and again I used thread locker on the nuts. So what I'm going to do is again put a little bit of white lithium grease here, and then we'll reinstall the tires. All right, so one down, 3 more to go. And I actually did have to raise the jack up a little bit because of the lift kit. So that was actually nice to see. So I'm going to do the other 3 corners. All right, we've got all 4 wheel spacers on. We've got the tires all reinstalled. So the best part, let's get this jack out from under it and see how it looks. So I've also moved this back and forth and sat on it a few times to get everything to settle. If not, it's going to appear higher than what it actually is. Wow, I can notice a huge difference. This thing looks massive now. So let's see what the ground clearance difference is. Again, this was a super easy install with just basic hand tools. This is something anybody can do with a few sockets, a little bit of time, and a floor jack. All right, so in the back, I believe it was 9 3/4. So now it is around 11.5 at just under 2 inches, about 1 3/4 inch lift. Looking at the front, it's sitting at about 12 inches. So we got a solid 2-inch lift in the front. And a huge shout out to Perfex Industries. Make sure you check out their website. I'll leave a link below. Again, they have lifts and wheel spacers for several other makes and models of ATVs. Definitely a high quality lift kit and wheel spacers. Everything you need was included. So the next step is to get this out on the trails and see how it holds up. And down the road too, I'd actually like to install possibly a 28, maybe a 29-inch tire. These are 27s. So the added ground clearance is going to give a little bit more room for some bigger tires. As well, my biggest reason for getting the lift is for ground clearance underneath where our area is at. It can be a little woody and some rough trails, so the extra ground clearance is certainly going to save the bottom of the bike.